Hey, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out the sequel omnibus to my first omnibus ever, and that is the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2. So without further ado, let's take a look at this book. Here is the cover of the book featuring Spider-Man swinging into action. Love the way this Spider-Man is drawn, just so good, had to grab this cover. And here is the spine of the book. You guys will not believe how good it is to finally see that Volume 2. It's beautiful. And here is the back of the book, of course mimicking what the first omnibus did and what a lot of Marvel omnibuses do, where they showcase all of the issues that are contained within. Okay, so we've got Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2 by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. So let's talk about what's in here first of all, and that is Ultimate Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe, we'll talk about that in a little bit too, issue 40 to 71, and Ultimate 6, number 1 through 7. So obviously this is an omnibus that is continuing a story from a previous omnibus, but I do want to just quickly explain what the Ultimate Universe is, in case you stumble across this video and you don't really know. Basically what it is this alternate Marvel universe that reimagines some of their iconic characters in a more modern context, and my understanding is that this was created to appeal to those who have sort of expressed before that they want to get into comics, but there is a difficulty with it because all of the years of continuity, what to read, when to read, should you read 60s stuff, should you read the modern stuff, will you understand the modern stuff if you haven't read the 60s stuff, etc. etc. So Marvel decided to just make a new universe, make it easy to bring on new readers, and it was pretty hit or miss for the most part, probably a lot more misses than the hits were, but what is undeniable among many people is that this run, the Spider-Man run by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley that we're looking at today, is the greatest thing to come from the Ultimate Universe. This is actually even my favorite comic take on Spider-Man. It's just a perfect blend of lighthearted and darker Spider-Man stories in this entire run. The supporting cast is written so well. A lot of the reimaginations of villains or other characters is super fun. And Peter Parker is just a nerdy high school student trying to balance his superhero life with everything else, and it's wonderful. It is just the epitome of Spider-Man and the Parker issues and everything. It's so good. And we waited so long for this too. I mean, like I said, this was my first omnibus that I ever got before I even really understood the context of what a Marvel omnibus was. This was basically my gateway into all of this. So if you enjoy the channel, you really gotta thank Bendis and Bagley, really, and Marvel's collected edition department, I guess, for having it for so cheap on Amazon. I think I got the first omnibus for like only $30, which is really insane for the quality of it at the time as well. It was like when they back when they did like the fake pleather covers too and the really thick paper. But yeah, so I was actually lugging that first omnibus with me to high school. I was like 14, 15, so that was nearly a decade ago, or over a decade ago, really, yeah. And I patiently waited. I said, it's got a volume 1 on the side, there's gonna be a volume 2, there has to be eventually, and now we've got the volume 2, and there's a volume 3 coming. So there'll be Ultimate Spider-Man volume 1, 2, 3, and then there will also be the Ultimate Death of Spider-Man Omnibus, which for some reason they made before volume 2 or 3. They said, we'll do the beginning, and we'll do the end. Alright, but let's talk about this omnibus and the content in this one in particular, because I'm getting way away from the point like I normally do. So this is generally more of the same as what we saw in the first omnibus, but I don't mean that in any bad way, because everything in the first omnibus was just so good. And what we have here is a lot more focus, I think, on Peter's character development, since we're sort of, now in the midst of the run. We've seen him dealing with like high school, relationships, the emotional toll of being Spider-Man, and there's a key moment in here where Mary Jane and Spider-Man they sort of split ways for a bit, and now we know there's so much to be said about Spider-Man and Mary Jane and the relationship and Marvel's role in all that. And I'll leave that maybe to you guys to discuss. I don't have as great a stake in it, probably. Funny enough, I always wanted Peter Parker to end up with the Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. Now I realize doing that within like main continuity and doing it actually like effectively pairing those two together permanently would essentially be writing Mary Jane out of comics, so they can't really ever do it. So they're in a really weird spot because it seems like they don't want them to be together, but he can't be really with anyone else because, like I said, it would really, really neuter Mary Jane's character. Or maybe not. Maybe there'd be other uses for her, or other ways to leverage that character to do some interesting things in the Marvel Universe. I'd actually be really interested in hearing from people who have that sort of opinion of Mary Jane as a character and what they think about her having just a way more autonomous role away from Spider-Man even. Now, Felicia and Peter Parker do flirt with each other within this book, but it's really, really awkward because Felicia does not realize that Spider-Man, because he's wearing a mask, and he is this superhero vigilante, she doesn't realize that he is literally just a kid. And so she is, sort of mirroring her normal self, and she's very flirty with him, and she's sort of coming on to him a lot, and he is just like, oh my god, what do I do? Like, oh, right now I'm with Mary Jane too, and this is all just like such a mess because I'm a hormonal teenager as well. And eventually she realizes that he is just a kid, and I think she throws up at the thought of it then, and then they sort of part ways and whatnot. Just a really interesting, weird little storyline in there. And not to make this entire omnibus overview about Peter Parker's love life, but I do want to add also that I think one of the more solid Peter Parker relationships comes in this book, although it's not as long-lived as I would have liked it to be. But the ex-ladies do show up in here, and they're also, they're teenagers, and Kitty Pryde and Peter Parker have this relationship for a while, and I actually really, really like the dynamic of their Ultimate versions together. I think it really, really works, and I don't know what's going on with the Ultimate Universe again, if like Spider-Man is back in it. I've not read any of the new Ultimate Universe stuff. All I know is that there is an Ultimate Universe again, maybe? Like I said, I haven't read it. But if they do sort of bring back all those characters, whatever they do, I think it'd be interesting to explore that relationship a little bit more in that Ultimate Universe. Okay, let's talk some villains though, especially since they're sort of reimagined versions of their 616 counterparts. So one of the bigger ones in this book that isn't actually around for too long, but just has a amazing domino effect in the storyline, less so amazing, I guess, more tragic, and that is this interpretation of Carnage. So if you've read the previous omnibus, I won't give you too much information in case you haven't, but if you read the previous omnibus, you know that they really changed the Venom symbiote's origin, which I actually really liked. I thought it was pretty unique, made a lot of sense, very, very cool, and it was a cool way to tie it into like Parker legacy and all that, and the Eddie Brock inclusion was cool too. So this ultimate version of Carnage is actually this life form that survives by draining the life force of others and, leaving its victims just completely obliterated, and they use that Carnage version in this story sort of to fill in a role for someone else in another more tragic Spider-Man story. I'm trying to be super vague about what happens, so I apologize. But yeah, Carnage plays a pretty truly evil role in this, although he's more, like I said, it's less like a character and more like a force in this. Some other big players in here include characters like Dr. Octopus, who is really, really just this person in Peter Parker and Spider-Man's life that really messes with him and really destroys a lot of his confidence and a lot of just the power that he has. It's taken from him because of Dr. Ock. Not that he isn't in like the main 616 universe, but Ultimate Doc Ock is super, super formidable, and it's just sort of sad to see actually how much he can destroy young Peter Parker's life. Peter experiences a lot of Parker luck in this omnibus, so if you're a fan of Peter Parker having just the worst luck and just going through tough time after tough time, then this is going to be fun for you. But also, I should mention, because that makes it sound super depressing and dark, this is going to be actually fun for you because it is fun. There's a lot of comedy built in, there's a lot of like lighthearted whimsy built in too, and there's a lot of really endearing character moments in here too. So really, it's a very full-fledged Spider-Man run that includes all of the things you want to have. It's like, this is the model. This is what I want them to do with all future Spider-Man runs, basically. And, there's others in there, too, that play a pretty big role in messing with Parker's life. Like, in particular, the Kingpin. He's back in this omnibus after his departure in the first one. He's got his enforcers and everything. There is the Ultimate Sinister Six stuff happening in this omnibus, too. All very, very cool stuff. So, guys, let me know what you think if you've read the Ultimate Spider-Man run. run before. I really like Brian Michael Bendis. I really, really love Mark Bagley's art here. I think he is one of my favorite artists for drawing Spider-Man. It's just so fantastic the way he makes him put in all these dynamic poses and whatnot. Just really, really appreciate it. I think it's a fun book to flip through even when I'm not reading it. But I have read this a bunch of times. This is probably my most revisited comic book run. So, like I said, let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I will catch you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week.